Hello, beautiful Quanta folks. I've finally brought myself up from the hole from which I fell in a while ago into family life and freshly resurrected out of another lockdown here in Victoria, Australia. I am so interested in talking further about how to high vibe our parenting. Um, I'm I have a tiny little example this morning, and I think that it was a really useful one on the different ways that we can do empathetic parenting. And the reason why I bring this up is that part of the process of empathetic parenting is starting to recognizing old programs that we have that look, perhaps are right or perhaps are actually not very useful. And the one I'm talking about this morning is this idea of going to school at all costs, which is a real soldier on mentality and not one that ever takes into account what's going on for the individual and whether that actually serves them to go and make that commitment day in and day out. It could be that they're actually doing that and sort of digging their own proverbial grave in mental health because what they need is actually a break. And it was a really useful experience because our bookends, as we call them, our 5-year-old who's in prep, which is the first year of primary school in what we call in Australia, and our other bookend, our eldest, who is in the first year of high school or secondary school, what we call year 7 in Victoria, they both had this school refusal. Now, the context is that we're in regional Vic, so we have just come out of another lockdown. This one was 7 days. Our beautiful brothers and sisters in Melbourne are still in lockdown, so I'm sending you guys so much love and compassion for these challenging times of experiencing the accordion of restrictions and then a easing of those restrictions, and especially as parents trying to maintain that high vibe experience for our kids as well, and a high vibe experience for our parenting. And this is where this empathetic parenting comes in. So this morning we're just coming out of the 7-day lockdown. The kids have just been doing more remote learning, which in our household is just not a great fit. Our kids do not do well on screens. They don't love that kind of learning. Like it's almost a flat out no for them. And we're in this kind of interesting sort of push and pull with what the school system wants for them and what we want to do to honour them. So we do lots of offline stuff, but it's still a loss of rhythm. And rhythm is a beautiful thing that is quite comforting, and rhythm changes. No doubt rhythm changes. If you've ever tried to do any kind of rhythm, you might find that it's great for a while and then it changes because your needs change, right? But rhythm still serves a beautiful purpose in a daily practice. In some fashion of giving you some sort of knowing on where you're at and what you want to do for the day and so forth. And it doesn't mitigate being in the now moment. It just simply means that there is a gentleness and a knowing to your day when you include certain rhythms. And school provides that for kids, it provides that kind of rhythmic structure for them, which is lovely. So this morning, we basically had our bookends going school refusal, not going to school. And the way we handled it was different for both children. And there's a reason for that. So the context for the 5-year-old is that his I'm not going to school whilst he was busy kicking the cupboard and moving all his energy around came after refusing to do his teeth and then refusing to do something else as well. So it was this kind of list of things that he was refusing. And when he said, I'm not going to school, I became very quiet and very still. And in my mind, I literally imagined the infinity symbol, right? I'm thinking I'm creating coherence in this energy field around us because I'm right near him and I'm creating some coherence for him. or for coherence for both of us. So it calms and stills the space. So when when I want to create that, I really focus on imagining the figure 8 or the infinity symbol, right? So that within that field, that shared energetic field, we're creating some coherence. All right, we're creating a coherent signal which starts taking all the frenzied sort of feelings and energy out of it. And all I said to him was, you are going to school. And the reason why I've come to this space of not giving a 5-year-old options is that when I sit in his space, in his body, in an empathetic way and going, what must it be like for him? Firstly, he's 5. So he lives mostly in the subconscious state, in the sense of he just takes in. He's like a little sponge. Up until 7, they're in this brainwave state of just absorbing. And lots of behavior is usually very raw or learnt behavior from what they've seen around them, because they're in this sponge-like kind of experience. So I can see he's in overwhelm. So if I was in overwhelm, do I want someone saying to me, are you okay? What can I do to help? How about we try this? And all these other very well-meaning questions that I'm already in this fight and flight or heightened circumstance, right, where I'm really not feeling comfortable. And you could see he was just winding himself up as he was moving his emotion through and moving his energy through. And so he's getting more and more wound up. And what I've found in the past is when I ask the young child in that state what they want, how we can help them, giving them options, it leads to more overwhelm. So now my practice as an empathetic parent of a child in that place is no questions whatsoever. In fact, I'm all about jumping, calming, stilling their space instead. So that's through that mindfulness of creating a coherent signal for them, calmness, quieten the voice, and then no questions, just only solutions. And so in this case, the solution was, you're going to school. And the reason why, even though we practice a household of consent, the reason why I said you're going to school is I sat in that space for him and I went, what's going on for him? Well, it's clearly not just about not going to school. It's about the fact he doesn't want his teeth done and he's, miffed at whatever his siblings have been doing with him. And so he's just having a wobbly morning where stuff's not going his way, according to him, right? And not that it should. It's a good experience for him of rolling with the situation and finding his calm within the chaos, right? But to have said, okay, you don't have to go to school, what would that have done for him? It would not have actually relieved him of his chaos, because he literally was in that space of being out of rhythm, out of flow for the morning. And so to take the flow away from school would have actually been unhelpful for him, because then he would have been at sea for today because everyone else would have gone to school. So in that moment, I just said quietly, you are going to school. There was none of that kind of what do they call it, perceived choice, where you say, would you like to put your shoes on now or in the car, right? So the intention is you're still going to school, but when would you like to put your shoes on? None of that. Excuse me. It was just literally, you're going to school. And I just quietly sat through his wild and said, you're going to school. You're going to school. And it passed. And it was lovely, right? It was so lovely. And that was in direct contrast to a couple of weeks ago, before this latest lockdown, where we got to school and just the things that trigger 5-year-olds are hilarious. There are 2 ways we can drive to school, and apparently I drove the wrong way. Anyway, that was like he was just beyond it, right? And he just said to me, I'm not going to school, at the school gates, mind you. So brother and sister, see ya, have a great day. And littlest Quanta kid just goes, I'm not going to school. And we're right at the school gates. And then he really showed his protest by hopping back in the car and just sitting on the horn whilst I was standing outside going, come on, I'll race you into the classroom, all this kind of stuff. So I'm nearly just going, this kid is just on the horn at 8:30 in the morning. And, we had tons of time. We had half an hour before school started. But in that now moment, I looked at this kid and I'm like, excuse me, he's ready for school. We're at school. His bag's packed. His siblings have gone in. And there was no way of making any other kind of coercive kind of argument with him, right? He just needed a definite decision of his world being made simple. And in that now moment, I said, okay, put your seatbelt on, let's go home. And he immediately calmed. So I don't know what was going on for him that day, but that school refusal, I honoured. This morning's, I said, nope, you're going to school. And we moved through it. Now, by comparison, our high schooler, excuse me, I have to cough. Got a frog in my throat. Too many nuts. Lots of lovely tamari almonds. Anyway, our beautiful high schooler came down this morning, and we know there's a wobbliness in going back to school after these lockdowns, right? This sort of, accordion kind of experience of school. It must be really unsettling for the kids. And so we're mindful of that. Anyway, the 13-year-old comes down from his bedroom and he is in his school uniform and he starts making his lunch, and he just looked at me and I went, are you okay? And he went, I'm just really tired. And then he came in for one of those cuddles that just, they just melt your heart. They're like the ones where you have a wounded toddler that just needs a parent's cuddle, those ones. And they're beautiful and you're like, I need to bottle this moment. Oh my God, this kid is just amazing. And it makes up for all the, yuckiness and wobbliness of parenting is in that moment. And that's what we had. We had this beautiful heart-to-heart cuddle, and it was gorgeous. And I said, what's going on? Because in that moment, when I sat in his shoes, I'm like, there must be so much going on for you. You're at a new school. You're now a little fish in a big pond, as opposed to being a big fish in a little pond of primary school. So in secondary school, you've got way more people there. You're trying to find your place. You're starting to realize that consciousness of who am I? What am I here meant to, what am I meant to do? What are my gifts? Do I have to learn all this stuff, this discomfort of this rhythm of learning stuff you don't necessarily want to learn, but other stuff you do want to learn, and like all that kind of stuff, right? All the responsibility that comes from looking more like an adult, this weight of expectation. It must be big for high schoolers. I'm trying to remember what it was like as a high schooler for me. I think I've mostly just blocked all that out, probably as a sense of self-preservation. But what must that be like for a young teenager or any teenager who is in that space of secondary school and all that stretching that goes on, and then add to that the uncertainty of our rhythms at the moment with these lockdowns, and then easing of restrictions, and then lockdown, and then easing of restrictions, and this, what I assume must be a building of distrust or uncertainty in their space and their surroundings and what they're actually doing. And I just took a moment after that beautiful cuddle and I said, here's the thing. We want to be mindful of not missing too much school, because it's had a few days off, right? And this is our second lockdown as in missing school already this year. And I said, we need to be mindful of missing too much school, because there's an expectation that you do attend and you have a certain number of attendances. Like that's pushed right in the government school system, of which we are enrolled. Said also, if there's stuff to do with subjects you're not really enjoying, then we get you the support you need. We help you, whatever, right? We're here to help you, but you can't not go to school because you haven't done your homework or you're missing some stuff. And he just looked at me with these beautiful, clear, blue, tired eyes. And he just said, I just slept so poorly last night. Like I was awake from 1 until 2 a.m. and then I went back to sleep, and then I was awake from 4 and I didn't go back to sleep. And now it doesn't help the situation right at that moment to go in any further as to what's going on for him with his overnight sleeping, right? He just needed a solution. And so I sat in that space of what it must be like to feel like that. Going back to school after another lockdown, not really knowing what you're walking back into because there's some more restrictions that have been brought in. Feeling like you haven't had the stability and the rhythm of school in the last week and just, worrying about that stuff. And then on top of that, just having a crappy night's sleep. I went, you know what? If you need the day to rest, then you do that. You do that. You do whatever you need to do. You don't. My beautiful kid has just rolled in. It's okay. It's been out helping around the yard, which is awesome. You do that. So my point is, this feels like a very long-winded share, but if you're still with me, thank you. In empathetic parenting, there is space to hold that, whatever that situation is that your child's going through, and literally guide them to the answer they need or to the solution they need that you can see, even if it's not what they want to hear. And there's also space within empathetic parenting to hear what they need and honour it. And that's where the high vibe parenting comes in. Because anyone who has tried to forcibly get their kid out of a car who does not want to go to school or doesn't want to do this or doesn't want to do that, you can feel how yucky that is. And I've done all that kind of parenting. So by no means am I sitting here going, oh, I've worked out the solution, That's not what it's about. It's about this experience. How does it sit in your body when you do that kind of parenting? Does it actually feel nice as a parent to do that? Would it feel nice to be in that child's shoes? And then making a decision that is in alignment from there. That's what high vibe parenting is all about. And so I'm so pleased to just share these experiences with you, and what I feel like are little nuggets of gold for our parenting and our little quantum family. And, if it resonates, then please, tell me. Please tell me about your experiences. I'm so interested in knowing how this actually translates in your household. And if you are experiencing restrictions wherever you are, I am sending you so much love. If you are not experiencing restrictions wherever you are, I'm sending you so much love. I hope you all have a beautiful day. And I look forward to seeing you very soon, because I'm going to be back more often now that I have crawled out of the crazy busy little pothole that I fell into for a while there. Take great care.